Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living. You have Spencer here, and I'm joined by Renee today, as always. And we're here to bring you Principle 2 of our fall series. Principle 2 is making inquiry and practicing awareness. And our fall series, at least that's what I've been calling it, is essential elements of conscious communication. So this is Principle 2. If you're not familiar with us, we do these in series, and we have our first principle is available on our channels here. If you want to go back and watch, they do tend to have a nesting doll effect. So I highly recommend rewatching those in your spare time if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Also, if you're not familiar with us, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And which means we rely on your support to keep us going. First and foremost, your presence and watching these videos is our most appreciated thing you can do for us. So thank you for being here with us and watching. We really appreciate that. Another way that goes in with that is reacting. This is social media, and we love interaction. So I shouldn't say reacting, interacting with us. So you can do that with Facebook reactions if you're watching us there, or liking us on YouTube, subscribing to us, all those things. But really the biggest one that we love seeing the most is your comments. We love seeing that and hearing from you. Part of this being a conversation, we encourage you and invite you to join in after Renee does our energy activation, and just enjoy the conversation. And we will keep everything as private as possible while we're sharing that. And we thank you for doing the same. So hope you enjoy what we have to learn today. And thank you so much for supporting us. If you do feel so inclined, as we are a 501c3 nonprofit and are able to, we appreciate any financial contributions that just help keep the lights on around here. And that's very much appreciated. So those links are in the bio. You can also learn all of this and more about us on our website at scfcl.org. And we also have a way for you to reach out to us privately if you would like to do so for more support. With that being said, I'll hand it off to Renee to get us started.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Hello, everybody. New month for us. This is our first Sunday in November. We'll be here for 3 Sundays. And as Spencer said, we're continuing a series that we're doing. It's an extended series, which is a little longer than normal for us. And so I just want to let you know that. And as Spencer was saying, hold on a second here. As Spencer was saying, if you would like to, excuse me 1 minute. I got to fix something on my computer. Bear with me, please. Thank you. Okay, I think I got it. So if you haven't heard the first of the 2 series, this is principle number 3. I'm just going to recap this for you. Also, as Spencer said, the website does have a lot of information. Part of one thing that he didn't mention that you can enjoy there if you'd like to is our program, which shows the entire series for the month, for the fall series. It's usually a month. And so if you want to check that out, that helps. And I have kind of like little cliff notes for you to follow along. Let me just do a recap because it has been a couple of weeks since we've been together. So principle number 1 was energy dynamics within sacred relationships. And principle number 2 was energy self-mastery and conscious choice within relationships. So we're talking about conscious communication, and the groundwork that we are building on each week is how to commit to and then sustain a decision, a choice, a very conscious, clear choice that relationships are for a sacred purpose. They're for joy, and they're for harmony, and they're for enrichment of life in sacred ways, as opposed to what sometimes happens. I referenced a book written years ago by Gary Zukav, which helped see that over time, humanity's consciousness was in such a lower dense level, lower vibrational density, that we kind of built this system, which is still in place. It's definitely shifting, but we built a system where humans kind of fed on each other. The stronger fed on the weaker, whether it was physical strength or financial, the external senses of force. I love the distinction that David Hawkins explains too, the idea of there's power and there's force. So what we do here is we talk so much about understanding that you can align in every moment with divine presence and divine power as the true power, because we hold the belief and we build on that every week. We're spiritual beings blended with our human beingness, our human selves. We have a divine self and a human self. We want to learn to let the divine self lead, so the human self doesn't have this low density consciousness of, overcoming all the time. And in that overcoming, what happens is the human it feels vulnerable and fearful, and then the human self of us will sometimes try to manipulate or dominate the other parts of life, external things. So what we're learning with conscious creation and conscious living principles is to align with divine presence and power, so that you hold the consciousness, which becomes your energy field, which then becomes the creative force for what you choose your life to be. And we then teach principles to help you understand how to make that very clear choice based on values that are at the core of your being. All right, so that's kind of a little recap. So remember that what we're working on here is how to engage with people in ways that support an energy dynamic that is sacred. We are supporting one another to be the glorious spiritual beings having a glorious human experience. All right, how does that resonate with you? Feel into that for a moment before we proceed. How does that resonate with you? Is that something that feels like, wow, I like that? And then you feel this sort of opening in your energy field, like, ooh, I like that. Another reaction you might be having, response, I like how Spencer said that too. Another response you might be having is, I like that, but I'm not sure about it. It feels vulnerable to trust that. And that's okay. Just let yourself feel whatever you feel as your response. You're either resonant or you have some dissonance, maybe a little bit of resistance. Even if you're eager to learn more about it, it's okay. You may have some resistance, and you want to be honest with yourself about that. And you're welcome to comment if you choose to. Just be aware that you're open or you're feeling a little resistance, which means you sort of constrict or you put up a little bit of a wall. The thing about the wall, the energy wall, that a lot of there's some misconceptions. It's often taught as a way to protect yourself. It doesn't protect you. It actually disconnects you from the one, the light of the one, the power that is the source, the power that creates worlds. Whether you call that God or spirit or divine creator, that wall that a lot of times people put up, you think you're putting it up between other people, to see if you actually hold your energy very clearly and purely, meaning it's steady and it's consistent. I don't mean that it's always perfectly in tune, but it is predominantly in tune with a high frequency of your choosing, which is based on your consciousness, of course. We'll go into, that's some things we're going to cover in the new year as we start a new series. So if you are able, as you learn and work with us here, learn how to do that, you don't need to worry about protecting yourself, because the energy around you will not allow anything in that's not in alignment. Now, sometimes things come in for us to be aware that our consciousness isn't where we thought it was, which means our energy field isn't where we'd like it to be. So that's not anything bad happening to you. You're not being punished. It's not even a lesson. It's just awareness. So today we're going to talk about another aspect of awareness. We went into awareness last Sunday we were together in terms of awareness of your emotions, awareness of when you're engaged in communication and something feels off, and honoring that. So here's what we're covering today. As Spencer said, the topic is making inquiry and practicing awareness. And the 3 points we're going to cover, which is in the program you can find on the homepage if you'd like. It's a red PDF icon on one of the banners that goes around. So the concept is open to source for awareness before speaking or acting. Open to source. And then 2 questions we will explore together are, do you make sincere inquiry or do you make assumptions in your communications? And the second question is, do you listen to truly understand or only to defend your ideas? Defending your ideas could also could look like in your own mind, you're wanting to prove that you're right. In your own mind, you're wanting to validate your ideas, even if you're not, openly defending to other people. So it is important that you learn to listen to truly understand. And it's also important that you learn to make inquiry rather than assumption. So let's take a look at those, and then we'll do an energy activation, and then we'll have conversation and we'll take questions if you'd like. So just take a deep breath, please, and open your field. Make sure you're very grounded in your body. Take some breaths. Do you feel solid and steady and calm? Good. Okay, I hope so. If not, keep breathing. Okay, so the concept that we want to really bring home today is how important it is to open to pure source energy, the divine, beloved source, the power that creates worlds, God force, life force. Open to that energy for awareness, and also to align with that as your presence and power, being one with it as your presence and power in all you're doing before you take action, before you speak, before any form of communication, texting. Do you align before you send a text? When I say do you align, I don't mean you take 10 minutes to go meditate or 20 minutes, I don't mean that. I mean, this is a momentary thing you can learn to do. Do you center, breathe, align? Just drop into your heart, take a breath, align with divine presence and power. Your field opens and you receive wisdom and guidance that you won't have had before that. It will keep you from being projecting, like somebody says something and what they say is a trigger for you, not that they triggered you. You were triggered. You were triggered. Okay. They're just being them, and they're not. Sometimes people are deliberately, of course, I know, antagonistic, but most of the time people are just being themselves and doing the best they know how to do in terms of communicating and being, what their idea of a good person in life. And a lot of people you deal with in the world have not yet awakened to the truth they are a spiritual being. And if they are awakening to it, they're at different levels of understanding and being able to implement that and practice it. So part of making inquiry is giving you time to actually hear them, and they'll reveal to you who they are and what matters to them if you will listen. So if someone says something, let's use that as an example, that causes a trigger, an emotional trigger in you, an emotional charge. You think it was unkind, or it was rude, or maybe you don't understand it and you think they're mistaken. You think they don't understand a concept you're discussing. And so do you interrupt? That's when you find yourself interrupting people, that means you're not listening. First of all, you're not listening. You're not listening to understand. You're listening to defend. You're listening to prove you're right. You're listening to disprove something, or you're listening in a reactionary mode where you're just responding to triggers as opposed to processing. We're going to go into that. We have several more very important opportunities in the next few weeks to learn how to do all this better and better and better. So each week we just add a layer and add a layer and add a layer. So when do you just ask yourself honestly, are you a person who has a tendency to interrupt? Don't judge yourself. Be honest and kind, because there's a reason that you're doing it. And if you will be honest with yourself, then you can get to the core of what's going on. That you have that temptation, constant temptation to interrupt. It's a control mechanism. You're trying to control people through not letting them speak, or you're trying to get them to speak and say what you want them to say. You're either wanting them to validate what you think and feel, or you don't like what they think and feel, so you're wanting them to stop telling you. Now, you have the right to stay present in a conversation or excuse yourself. And that's what I'm wanting to help you understand is make inquiry. If you choose to stay present, then do so with conscious choice, and then practice conscious communication. Otherwise, it's a waste of your energy and presence to be there and the other person's. There's nothing sacred happening. But I want to make sure you understand something. Perhaps you've had this. I hope you have many times. When somebody says something that triggers you, there's a powerful opportunity for you and for them. You're only in charge of the opportunity for you. They have the opportunity and they may take it and they may not. But I invite you to take the opportunity for you. And here's what that opportunity is. I want you to imagine somebody you know that you love and you believe they love you, a close friend, a loved one, parent, child, sibling, family, and you are in a conversation and you find yourself triggered. It might be a little bit, it might be a lot. So take a breath with that and just let that be. Don't try to fix it, just let it be. If you make inquiry, if you will, first of all, be aware that you're triggered, and then align with divine presence and power before speaking, or before, walking away, or before, whatever else you might be doing, before reacting in any way, you will then be able to get calm, and you can now you can actually hear them, not just hear the words, but hear the meaning behind the words. You can sense the energy coming with the words, which may not be the same as the words. The words could be irritable and grumpy, and the energy might not be. The words can be very loving and kind of sweet, maybe syrupy sweet, and the energy is kind of, it's not syrupy sweet at all, right? There's going to be a lot of discrepancy there. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to be deceptive. They're certainly, and that could be, and if you will open, you will know, is this person consciously being deceptive, or is this person just, they're just not clear right now, and they don't know how to communicate clearly. Or maybe they do, but in this moment, they're just sort of lost in something, and I call it's like delusional. They don't know that they're not being clear. They're not intentionally deceiving. They're just sort of not present and being clear and pure and calm in their communication, in their energy, in their consciousness, perhaps. Or maybe they have that consciousness at times, but when they get triggered, they shut down, they constrict their energy, and they go into that fearful, vulnerable human rather than opening more to this amazing power source. And then the vulnerable human doesn't feel so vulnerable. So if you will first make inquiry within yourself, start within yourself, what's really going on here? What am I feeling? And then, and you can do it this fast. You have to practice it. But once you practice it, it becomes automatic for you, and you do it immediately. What's going on here? This feels off. Number 2, what's my reaction? Am I centered and calm? No, I'm not. Now I need to open my field, open to source, not open to the person, open to source, pure source energy. Now you're very calm and you're grounded and you're in your body, but you're also, you're open to intelligence beyond just human, and you're open to the multi-sensory experiences of the spiritual being blended in human form. And then you might choose to ask a question. Only do this when you're calm. Don't do this as some sort of protocol, because it sounds like a reproach. If you're calm and grounded, then say something like, that felt like you might be a little upset, or maybe you're, are you angry? Did you intend to be rude? It felt kind of rude, or that felt a little hurtful. Was that your intention? Just make an inquiry that's very sincere. And it's not this sort of, you're not snapping at him going, hey, that didn't feel good. Why'd you do that? If that's the space you're in, it's okay, but then don't respond. Wait till you can come back later to make an honest inquiry. It doesn't have to be in the moment. What's most important in the moment is for you to be aware of, are you present, or have you now gone into an agenda in this conversation? So you're not hearing. That's very important to know that. Okay, now that you've done that, then the next question is, ask yourself honestly, am I here with an agenda, or am I just here to understand and learn about this person? I promise you this, you'll have some beautiful experiences if you'll begin to do this. When you do this with somebody who's ready to evolve their consciousness and learn how to be present and have conscious communication, you'll have glorious experiences. Even if they just did something really hurtful, you can, if you're able, when you're able to be present and have a sincere inquiry, you can sort that out so quickly, and you will find something that they will reveal about themselves, that you now are closer to them, and they now have trust in you because you didn't just jump all over them for this mistake they made in their communication. Instead, you were present and you allowed them space to sort it out and come back into more consciousness and be more present with you. Now, sometimes people are not there. They're not ready to do that. They're not able to do that, but you won't know if you don't try. Don't try until you're able to do this with presence. But when you're able to do it with presence, you can circle back later. You can call them a day later, a week later, and you can say, hey, we had this conversation and I wasn't sure what to say then, but I'd love to talk to you about it now. I felt like you were kind of being kind of rude or angry, and I care about our relationship. Is there something that you'd like to share with me, that we need to clear up between us? And maybe they'll tell you the truth. Or maybe they'll say, you know what, I felt bad about that. I was having a bad day and I projected on you. And maybe they'll tell you, I'm so sorry. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to apologize. I didn't really know how to handle it. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. Now that is a sacred energy dynamic right there. You have supported yourself to evolve your consciousness. And you have opened the door and held sacred space for this other person to do the same if they choose. Now, if they don't choose, I hope you won't let that trigger you again, because that's defeating the whole purpose. because it's mostly about you learning to be in this space and practicing this. And then you will attract more and more and more easily and consistently people who want to engage with you in this beautiful sacred exchange of energy. One more thing I want to talk about, and that is the idea of defending or looking for being validated. So if you catch yourself interrupting, sometimes it happens because you get excited and there's something you want to share, it can happen. And sometimes it happens with technology. There can be a momentary delay as people are conversing, and so there can be like a little overlap. So then just take a breath and get centered and realize, get grounded, realign, and then you just decide. Don't blame the other person. Maybe they're doing it on purpose, but probably it's just happening. And it may just be a bad habit that they have. It may be a momentary lack of awareness, and they're just not really conscious in their communication with you in the moment. So you decide to set the energy. So, like, for example, in our organization, we have some agreements in how we gather together, especially in business meetings. And and those of you who joined me on Zoom meetings, I put you in a waiting room first. I do this with anybody that I work with in my personal business or in the center. There's a waiting room, and the waiting room says, beautiful being, please take this time to get grounded and align your energy and choose what frequency you want to bring into this conversation, this business meeting, or this communication. And so I encourage you to make that your practice, to always decide what energy you want to bring and stop trying to control the energy other people bring, because you can't control that. You can absolutely have influence over it by your energy. And that you will be amazed how that will inspire people. I've had so many people tell me how much it helped them to have that moment, just a minute or two, to be in the space. If they take the time and do what the little message says, they tell me how much they appreciate it, how much it served them. And I invite you to honor yourself with that. Before you react, respond, speak, act in any form of communication, take the moment. What energy are you intentionally bringing? And if you're not being intentional, it's time to be intentional. If you're not being intentional, I ask you this: why not? Why? Why are you not choosing to have mastery over your emotions and your energy and your conscious choices? You have that amazing gift. We all have it. Please don't squander it. Please use it. Use it wisely, and use it with love, and use it with joy, because that's what it's meant. And in doing so, you honor yourself and you create the space for sacred energy dynamics with everyone you engage with. Everyone. Okay, so let's have our energy activation. Sometimes I call it an activation, and it's also kind of an immersion. So it's a little bit of a meditative feel. I know Spencer has some music for us. And so here's what I'd like us to think about today. First of all, let's take some breaths. Deep breath. Exhale with sound. Whoa. Another deep breath. Exhale with sound. Whoa. The sound helps, it activates the vagus nerve, which helps energy run through your body, which helps you get very grounded, centered and grounded and calm and clear. Another deep breath, please. Now I invite you to consider someone you interact with recently. Perhaps it's someone you interact with on a regular basis, someone who is just an absolute cherished, beloved person in your life, whatever the relationship. Doesn't matter what, it can be any form of relationship. Somebody who you just cherish, and they're just very dear to you, and the relationship is dear to you. And I want you to be aware, did you have, in the last conversation with this person, did you have an agenda, or were you there being really present for the purpose of just being aware and letting them reveal to you more of who they are? And then when appropriate, you revealing to this person more of who you are. Was it a sacred exchange of just revealing yourself in ways that were appropriate and authentic? Or were one of you or the other person, trying to control the conversation, trying to insist it go a certain direction, insist on agreement, for example, about whatever the conversation was discussing, considering? Were you there, very calm in your energy, knowing your energy, and allowing the other person to have their energy? Whether you enjoyed their energy or not, you allowed it to be because it was their choice. If it didn't feel good, did you force yourself to stay longer than you really wanted to? Because you love them, you said, well, I'll stay present. That's not necessarily wrong, as long as it's not something that begins to deplete your energy. If you can do so with presence and awareness, it helps you to learn more about the other person. It helps you to be aware when the person you're engaged with is conscious and when they're not, without judgment. Awareness without judgment. Awareness without trying to control the person to be at a level of consciousness that feels better to you. Take a deep breath, please. Now I ask you to consider a different type of conversation or communication. It could be email, it could be business, it could be a phone call, it could be in person, with someone who is consistently challenging, frustrating to try to communicate with. Whether it's because they interrupt all the time, or it's because they tend to be very dominating and try to control the conversation. They don't listen to your ideas, or they don't honor your difference of opinion. Whatever the reason, it's always frustrating. Perhaps it's somebody you work with, so you don't have a lot of choice in the matter. But just be honest with yourself. Think of the last time you interacted in whatever form of communication. Email is a very common form of communication today, so include that. Texting also, include that. And how did you handle that? Did you stay centered? Did you drop into your heart? Did you check your energy? Or did you let the frustration override your ability for conscious choice? Did it keep you from being able to make clear, conscious choice based on an intention that's about you, not an intention about the interaction, controlling the person, controlling the experience, controlling the outcome? I'm not suggesting that it's wrong to have a choice, a desire, an intention for harmonious outcome and productive business meeting or something like that. What I am saying is, in doing that, do you allow this amazing energy force to monitor that, to accomplish that? Or do you try from your humanness to manipulate and dominate the conversation to get the outcome you think is best at the level of your human intelligence, which also includes sometimes your human ego? Take a breath, please. And whatever that answer might be, I invite you to be kind to yourself and compassionate and just let it go. If it wasn't at the high level of consciousness you'd like it to be, let it go. Choose again, choose anew. Consciously choose anew. The next time you will do better. The next time you will practice this. The people who have a tendency to be difficult, those are the people you most definitely want to take a minute or two prior to a meeting with them to get very calm and grounded, clear with your intention, conscious with your choices, sacred energy exchange. Sacred for you, not just for them, for you. Take a deep breath, please. And now, I invite you to set an intention that as you move forward this week, you will be aware with soft focus. Awareness is a soft focus. You will be aware with a soft focus of the energy exchange happening in every communication, email, text, phone call, in-person meeting, video meeting. You will be aware with soft focus, and you will constantly align and choose, align and choose, align and choose with the intention of being present, fulfilling the role you are there for without controlling others, fulfilling the role you choose for yourself without trying to control others to fulfill an outcome you choose. Choose the outcome. Don't choose the control of others. And we'll discuss that more in our conversation. If you struggle to do that, you might start becoming aware. Are you getting lost in their energy? That happens when you don't maintain a soft focus of awareness about what's happening, while having your intense focus be open to pure source. Letting that be your dominant vibrational choice. And then a soft focus about how it's playing out around you, so that you have awareness, so that you can just fine tune like that radio dial. Just keep tuning it in until the song is in perfect harmony. Let's take a few breaths, please, as we come back. And exhale very slowly and gently as you bring your focus back. Whoa. We're going to begin our conversation now. Okay, I'm changing the view here. While we're waiting for everyone to be more present, I want to say that we thank you for being with us today. We'll be back next week with another very important message. I'll cover that at the end. We invite you to participate in the conversation, and as you do so, please open your heart to whatever degree you're comfortable. Please don't share private ideas about other people, or use names and things like that. If there's something that you would like to discuss that's not appropriate to do in this public forum, we have a way to do that. Go to the website and you'll see several different ways to connect. Either email me or you can even schedule a phone conversation with me. Okay. And to whatever degree you'd like to participate today, we would really enjoy it. And we will answer your questions. If you are watching on the replay, you can still participate, and I get notification when someone makes a comment. I'll come back and answer your questions later. So feel free to participate later in the replay as well. Okay, so Spencer, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, good. That was pretty, for me, that was pretty deep. I don't know how it felt for everyone else. So I'm going to cover the points, and then we'll have some questions. So let me go over the points just as a review for everyone. So today we're talking about making inquiry and practicing awareness in conscious communications. So the concept we talked about was how important it is to open to source for awareness before speaking or acting. And then a couple of questions. Do you make sincere inquiry, or do you make assumptions? That's, do you find yourself doing one or the other more? Do you listen to truly understand, or are you listening primarily to defend or validate your own ideas? Okay. So as we proceed in the conversation, is there any part of that, not just Spencer, everyone in the audience too, now and also on the replay, is there any part of those 3 points that you would like to have a little support to better understand or more easily implement in your everyday life?
Yeah, that's I love making inquiries. I do it mostly internally. I notice, and I think that's where it starts from.
Yeah.
It's funny, they always do those, whatever that personality test that people do, where it's like, oh, you're a rebel, you're a questioner, blah blah blah. I don't remember what mine was, but I never agreed with it, and I never agreed with like questioner either. But like, yeah, you know what? I kind of do question a lot of everything in my mind all the time. I don't outwardly question, I think, enough, and not question as in challenge, but ask for clarification. I do my fair share of it in my day-to-day life and in work and stuff like that, because I do want to make sure that everybody's aligned. And I've run into that in my professional life as well, where I make an inquiry to try to do that, and it just trips somebody's trigger, and and it's fun. I mean, to me, it's kind of funny because they came back very upset. Yeah. And I'm like, just hold on. I think there was a miscommunication here. Like, there's not saying we can't do anything for you. I'm just trying to figure out the exact situation and trying to explain my reality as well in doing so. So inquiry can, it can kind of be fun if you look at it that way, that it's like you like you said, you learn about somebody else. It gives them the opportunity to show you. And honestly, since that point, things have been really good with that person. Like, they got upset, and then I kind of, and this was, we talked about different communication types. It doesn't help. I am kind of old school in my firm belief that, like, picking up the phone and calling is the best and clearest way, or talking face to face, definitely, but live in person communication over something via anything that's sent, text, handwritten letter, what have you, because a lot of the context can be left out. But so this is all electronic communication, and after that, it was just like everything has been a lot better. It's like they understand, hey, I'm not here trying to wreck things, not trying to tell you can't have things. I'm just trying to help you understand what your needs are and share our reality, and how can we best create this together. And it's fun doing that in the world too, when not a lot of people practice that, because it's like they don't know what's happening. They just know they're happier. And that's not like I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm not saying that they're, or not evolved or less than.
Yeah,
It's just that you can do it in such a way where you're creating what you want and it's best for everybody.
I like that. May I comment on a
Oh
couple
yeah,
of,
absolutely.
we can expand on it too.
Yeah.
So there's like three things that I went, ooh, I want to talk about that. So the last thing you said, let's talk about that first. When we talk about communicating with somebody who's not choosing to be conscious, sometimes they're not choosing to be conscious because it's not something they are yet awakened to, you could say. But we're not saying they're less than. I'm so glad you said that. That is not what we mean. Sometimes they're not conscious because they're we say they're unconscious, but honestly, it's important to distinguish. A person who keeps doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result, the first time they did it, they might have been unconscious. But if they keep doing it, you need to consider maybe they are consciously choosing chaos, right? And it's not a judgment, it's just be aware of it, right? And then also, they might just be in a loop, and they are staying unconscious, repeating things that don't turn out well for them. And so, like you said, you're coming in with a higher frequency, a more grounded energy that creates a better result for everybody. And they don't have to know what that was. You don't have to explain it to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they want to know, they can. If they observe it and they'll either start doing it themselves because they liked it, or they'll come to you and they'll go, so you really handled that situation well. How did you learn that? Or what was that exactly? Is there like a process you use or something? That's when you get the opportunity to say, well, yeah, it's this thing. It's part of ideas that I like to practice, that I call it conscious living. Here's what it is, blah, blah, blah. It's really cool. So that's one thing. Thank you for pointing out that we're not saying somebody is less than.
Yeah, I like to think of it in like the Eastern traditions, Eastern religious traditions of that life is, for lack of a better term, an illusion. And it's like a lot of people who are living unconsciously. It's not that, like, we say unconsciously, but realistically, it's like they're just kind of caught up in the smoke and mirrors of what this life offers, and they're like, hey, I've got this great job, I've got my house, I got my family, and they're always in defense mode trying to protect that, rather than not to get way off track, but that's kind of how I think of it. So that way I can really clear my mind of this. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm really not. I'm just doing a different way, trying things different from a different approach.
Yeah, I've just made my
for harmony, right? That's my highest priority. I'm not caught up in the rat race.
Right. Ooh, I like that. And when we say that, it's funny because the rat race, there's games that have been made about it and all that. It's really a wonderful thing to notice when you step into that illusion and it becomes the only reality.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's for the moment, you lose touch with the bigger reality, maybe the greater reality, which is where your actual power and presence is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then it does feel vulnerable. And so we can have compassion for anyone caught in that, because we've been, we've all had moments where we're caught in it, or phases in our life where we get caught in it in some way or another. And the kitty's talking to us. I like that. Okay. So we're just, so everyone's clear, being conscious is a beautiful way to live. We're not saying it makes anyone better than or less than. Okay. It's just, I encourage it because as more and more people communicate consciously, we have a lot less conflict. We have more harmony. And we understand each other, and we can really enjoy each other more, actually, because we reveal our authentic self to one another, as opposed to that sort of posture thing that humans are doing, as you were saying, because they're feeling vulnerable. They're protecting their turf, their territory that is needed for human survival. So I have great compassion for it. We're not putting it down. We're just saying there is another way to go about it, and we're recommending that you try it. Okay. So another thing you said I really liked was the idea of being someone who questions, right? So as long as I've known you, you are a very reflective person.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, because in your reflection, so I've learned in, Spencer and I do work in the background doing business, making business decisions and for the center. And I learned way early on with Spencer, give him the space to reflect, because he comes back with some really cool stuff. If we don't give him the space, we lose out on all that. And so think about it. I suggest to everyone, think about, maybe you're that way, or maybe that you have people in your life that are that way. And you may be a person who likes to go boom, boom, boom. I'm not saying that's wrong, but is that always wise? Sometimes it's important, and sometimes maybe it's just a habit and it's not always wise. And then do you get irritated when someone else wants time to reflect? If you find that irritating you in some way, if it's challenging you, then please take a look at what's going on in you, because I would say you're probably needing their validation if you're not allowing them time to reflect before they respond. And so just, check that out and be honest with yourself, because that's not fair to the other person. That's you using them for energy, as opposed to your, self-sustained in your energy field and sharing ideas and connections and enjoyment with people, right? There was one other thing you said, and then I lost it. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea that people who make inquiry, we're not saying, like firing ideas, like I can remember, oh my gosh, I don't know what, I think it was a movie or a book or something. There was this period in time, I was, newly divorced and going, having a lot of first dates. And it's like it's almost like the person would pull out a checklist. I mean, it felt like that, So are you this? Are you this? And tell me about this. And they're just like firing questions, which is not what we're talking about. They didn't allow, I remember thinking, I would just learn to say, you know what? I'm not going to answer your checklist. I prefer that. I mean, I don't mind questions, but I want to, let's give ourselves time to reveal ourselves to one another, as opposed to, here's my, it's like, I'm not applying for a job,
Right.
And it felt like that. It was like, this was like a job interview, not a date. This is not enjoyable. So when we talk about the inquiry, we're not talking about using that to dominate or manipulate. Like, I want to make sure you're who I want you to be. I'm going to make sure that this meeting goes the way I want it to go. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about being very grounded and aware. And then, as Spencer said, first and foremost, make the inquiry within. And then you might not choose to make the inquiry out loud. You might, but you might not either.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to, you use the example of somebody who is always quick to just share and to make a decision type of a thing. That might be, that's where I would say the inquiry needs to start from within. Sometimes the inquiry is just somebody trying to build up their defenses. Sometimes it's trying, if you're inquiring with somebody externally, it's really important to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And that's why it all starts from within. You have to really inquire, like, why do I rush to that? Why do I immediately, why is it a problem for somebody else? Or maybe somebody else is making a snap decision. Does it bother me that that's the snap decision that they made? I do that all the time and it's fine. Why is it a problem when they do it?
Right. That's a great question. Yeah.
So there's tons of questions you can ask, and it always starts there. And I think that kind of brings in awareness too. That inquiry, that self-inquiry, is the basis of self-awareness, is that you're aware of, oh, I do have a tendency to bottle stuff up inside, and then I lash out, and that hurts people. And I say sorry, but I don't do anything about it. well, and then that allows you to be aware, well, I'm doing this. And then when that does happen, you can say to that person, I'm really sorry. I'm realizing that this is a habit of mine, and I'm I'm reflecting on why I do that, and then really do the work and sit there. And it's not comfortable. It's not fun. And realize that, what, I was either raised to do that, or I didn't have support in my life to listen to me do that. And that's why I've just been trained to, and I don't want to be that person. And not that you have to go and be an open door, but then you can just be aware of those feelings and learn how to process them. So I think inquiry is just a great space to start. And this is, again, jumping topic again, I think a little bit, but I feel like the inquiries that, like the self-inquiry, especially, the answers you get are always changing. Is that accurate? Like throughout life, change is the only constant. And I feel like the answers are always changing. It's like, oh no, you know what? I thought I was lashing out because somebody told me no at the candy store when I was a kid, but realistically it was something else, or it was both of those things too. And you start to learn that.
I like that, because if the self-inquiry isn't changing, the awareness isn't growing, expanding, that means you're not either. You're staying the same. And no, you're not, that's not aliveness. You want to expand your aliveness. You want to expand your awareness, your understanding, and it will shift desires that you have. There'll be some core ones that stay with you your whole life, but then you'll have new ones, and then they may not stay forever. They may just be for a certain phase in your life. But if you don't keep making the self-inquiry, then you kind of live in this box, of something you thought were your goals, like go to college, get a job, buy a house, drive a nice car, get married, have kids, or some portion of that, right? And that's the extent of it. And it's like, well, that's not really what life's about. That those things aren't bad choices, but are they true choices for you? Because the greater choice is this sacred connection. That's what the human experience is about, is the beauty of the sacred connection. And that is led by the divine self, the spiritual self.
Yeah. And, some of the greatest, they weren't comfortable necessarily conversations, but greatest ones that I've had were when people legitimately came with a question that they had. And it might have been something like just hey, when you did this, I felt hurt. Why did you do that? Is there a particular reason why? Or that sort of thing. And it really gives you the opportunity to step up to the plate. And I get it, it's not comfortable, but you can take accountability for your actions. And maybe it's something you're not aware of, but just say, you can say, I didn't realize. I was listening to on NPR, they had an apology expert, and I love the art of a good apology. I feel like I am an A+ apologizer, and that doesn't mean like I take great pride in that too, because if somebody comes to me and they feel that I have slighted them, I will do my best to make a sincere apology. But they said that one of the biggest things that people do is they say, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. And it's like, that's invalidating their feelings immediately. So I think that ties into it too. If somebody's inquiring about something that's painful, if you don't know what it is, don't force it, don't fake it. Like, that's going to eliminate that connection. Just say, I didn't, you can just apologize for it, and then reflect, inquire inside again. That goes back to the inquiry, and just say, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry that I did that. And I have to do some exploring to do. And that just leads to growth. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but everything on the other side of it's so much better.
Cool. Okay, so a couple of things came up there. Thank you. That was really cool. I prefer inquiry. If somebody has to choose between an apology or inquiry, if I prefer a genuine inquiry than a surface apology.
Yeah. Yeah.
The surface apology is like, well, it's socially correct, so I'm going to say I'm sorry, right? But they don't mean it, and then they keep doing the same thing because they didn't make inquiry.
Yep.
And it's like you get to the point where you want to say, rather than apologizing, why don't you stop doing the thing you keep apologizing for? Just
Correct.
Stop.
Yep.
And so, but it is, there are times when an apology is, of course, appropriate, and it shows caring. It also shows maturity, spiritual maturity, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say in a good apology, there is an element of inquiry. Like you apologize for the transgression, and then you ask how you can rectify it.
Right. Like
that's the other half of it. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry that I punched you in the face." It's like, no, how can I make it up to you? Is the other half that really shows the caring and connection. And sometimes there's nothing. But you have to have that kind of willingness to do it. And offer it and let that person decide what's right for them. It might not be right for you. But it's what's right for them. And then you learn about them. They're showing you who they are and what their values are.
Yes. And and you don't have to say yes to what they ask, but it's important to actually hear it. Right. So I like that too. I think we've had this conversation a few times where somebody was like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm like, first of all, you can't take responsibility for somebody else's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible. So that's a bad habit. Let's all please stop doing that. Instead, you could say, I care about your feelings. What if you honestly don't understand why they're upset? You can still care that they're upset. You can still say, I really care about you. And so whatever my part of what happened, I want to apologize for. Help me understand what happened. You know what I mean? That way you can really, because if all you do is apologize and you're like, walk away going, I don't know what I did. What was that about? Because it does matter. And then like you said, those two people get closer. When you have that with somebody, you'll get closer when it's sincere. So I like the idea of the apology that brings with it the intention for awareness. What did I do? How could I have done it better? That's a great question. How could I have handled that better? If you honestly don't know, you could learn from somebody, because I've learned from people in my life who are very gracious in conflict. They don't it's not like they take abuse or anything, but they're gracious and they're steady and stable and gracious as they say, this is not appropriate. This is not acceptable. And that is a really cool way. That's a cool energy to be able to hold in a business situation or personal situation where there's conflict happening. Yeah. Is there anyone that we want to address? Any comments or?
I don't see any comments as of now.
Okay. I'll check back later in the week and see what we have. Yeah, that was really good. So I like that. I would really encourage people to don't jump to the apology, have the intention, as Spencer said, to explore it. And then make it when you can be in that sincere space of it, which might take a minute. And if you have to wait and come back, that's okay. It's better to come back with it and it be honest and sincere than just this sort of perfunctory thing that doesn't really carry any meaning.
Well, that inquiry if you're the one doing the apologizing, that inquiry side of it also helps you eliminate future assumptions. Just really helps you get on the same page as the person and move forward.
It does. The assumption is often really, it's the response to the trigger. and you may not know you had the trigger, but you can, if the trigger happens so quickly, they're having trouble catching it, then pay attention to your assumptions because that will let you know. Oh, I'm making these assumptions based on a trigger that I've not processed. It's really not about this person. They're just helping you. The universe has brought them as a mirror for you to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Okay, then. Well, if there's anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. So let me switch over to another screen real quick and I can tell you what we'll be doing next Sunday. So next Sunday, we'll be back for principle number 4, which is energy pushing and pulling as control dynamics. So the topic will be the need to elicit certain behaviors from others is a control dynamic. And then we're going to talk about 2 types, the energy vampire. Do you pull energy from others to feel good about yourself or let others drain you because you want them to feel good? That's whether you're being an energy vampire or somebody else is being that in your relationships. And then the other one is the bully, the person that wants to dominate. Do you push energy on others to prove yourself or allow others to be invasive and dominating with you because you feel overwhelmed? Now, remember, none of this is judging. This is all awareness because we've all done that. When that vulnerable human gets triggered, we have a tendency to do one of those. And so we just want to get clear about it and learn to clean it up. And oh my gosh, it's so much better. You have so much more love and joy to be shared with each other when we're not doing that. And we're not, because once you're not doing that, and once you know how to manage it, when other people do it, now you can be open and be your real self around people and not be guarded. It's really going to be it's a potentially triggering conversation, but I promise you, if you will be courageous and join us for it, you will come away like reborn. I promise it's going to be powerful. Okay, so that'll be next Sunday. So I just want to say, let's take a moment and just hold sacred space for all human beings, all living beings, all creatures, all sentient beings, the beautiful planet, Earth, nature, and beyond, out into the cosmos, all the beautiful stars and potential other life forms out there. Just hold sacred space. This is a glorious experience of life, meant to be glorious, meant to be enjoyable. And we're here learning more and more easily, naturally, how that can be true for us. We thank you for your presence today. As Spencer said earlier, that is our most cherished. We love that you're here. That's why we're here. We're here to teach these principles, to help people evolve their consciousness, expand their aliveness, and elevate their lifestyle to have more joy and love and harmony, and make more conscious choices, which creates that experience for everybody in their reign of influence, their energy fields. So we thank you for your presence. We thank you for your likes and your sharing and your comments now or later. If you have something more personal you want to talk about, go to the website. You'll see ways to connect by email or to reach out and schedule a phone conversation with me. We can do that. And if you choose to donate, we value that. Your donations help us to do 2 things. Number one, it helps us to maintain what we're already doing. As Spencer said, keep the lights on, so to speak. And then it also helps us to expand what we're doing because we're in the middle, we're creating some video courses, and we will next year begin having some retreats for people to come in person and learn, as well as being online at the same time. So all of those contributions, all those various forms of your energy, presence, and contribution, we thank you for that, whether it's now or later. We thank you. And we invite you to participate in our community. Share your thoughts with us, even if it's just to say hello and let us know you were present. That's wonderful. Also, participate if there's a gift that you have, a special talent you have that you'd like to contribute. As we are expanding and adding teams, we welcome your participation. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week. As you go forward this week, just start noticing. Do you make inquiry? Do you make assumption? Do you stay present with awareness and truly listen? Do you get triggered and go off on kind of a personal agenda? And when you do, be kind with yourself, at the same time, be firm. Come back to conscious choice, awareness, self-inquiry, and then, if appropriate, external inquiry. Have a wonderful week. Practice that and let us know how it goes.